managing a town or a municipality or a city, you can't be like ideological. Ideology is for like national level politics when you essentially have infinite money from debt from the Federal Reserve. Like, you can't be ideological when you just need to build roads.
Yeah, and like in Minnesota, when you have highway bridges literally collapsing into the Mississippi River, they couldn't say no to the road money. So
right, you can't say no to the federal government in that situation. Like, you'll cover our budget? Okay, what do you want us to do?
1 million dindus to the highest bidder.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how it. I mean, it's like, it's nice to think that somebody could take a stand. You know, it's like, you can't in that situation. You can't take a stand.
No, and that's what they're doing now. Is they're with this program is what they're doing is they're taking Section 8 housing vouchers and they're expanding the zones where those vouchers are good. And so what they've done is they've taken places like Dubuque, Iowa, and put it in the same housing zone as Chicago. And they're and they're also supersizing this federal Section 8 housing voucher program so that they're just basically making it rain vouchers, and these people then go to cheaper areas because the urbanites and the Swipples have made it very expensive to live in the city. So not blaming it on them, but they have a role to play in pushing it out.
There's a whole intricate web of how this works, and and the thing is that one way that wealthier white people who have certain political beliefs and tastes, product tastes, and music and aesthetic tastes, and we know what we're talking about. We say Swipple, I mean, we know what we're talking about, but we also know that a Swipple is someone who's upper middle class at least, has certain kinds of tastes. Those tastes are not cheap, and that's like, it's not at the conscious level. But that's a defense against vibrancy. And they don't even know it.
Well, and another defense against vibrancy is more technical, and it's what HUD is doing is they're threatening to sue landlords who try to deny housing to applicants based on criminal records. So they're trying to throw that out the window. If you own a building or a house or whatever in your nice little suburb, you now have to accept Section 8 housing from Chicago coming into, say, Dubuque, Iowa.
And you can't do a background check. Jesus fucking Christ.
Nope.
Jesus.
So one of the things that, in addition to all that, of course, is that there's, as you enrich an area, of course, the expenses go up and the revenue goes down.
Yeah. Yes.
And what cities that take that money are going to see, because this is how the federal government's always done it. Like, they'll start out with we're going to make these funds available, and there's only going to be this string attached. And as time increases, the number of strings increase to where the regulatory burden just becomes ridiculous. So, you have to have 57 different language programs in your school district because we've resettled people from East Tajikistan, Burundi,
Jesus fucking
wherever else
to
your city, and you have to have a
and
translator for
because of equal opportunity laws and shit. You've got they need access to the school system and all this. Yeah, dude, Jesus fucking Christ. No, I mean, when I start really thinking about this shit, now I'm all rustled. Like, my jimmies are all askew right now. Like, because when you really, it's like almost like we can go into our worlds of alt-right and memes and rhetoric and trolling and have our own little, and it's fun. I love it. Look, it's a big part of my life. This whole little world that we've created for ourselves. But then when you start looking at this stuff, the nuts and bolts of how exactly they are fucking us, it's like your jimmies go to another place.
It does.
My jimmies are in another place right now, frankly.
Yeah, it was that landlord not being able to, ask if you're a fucking violent felon.
Yeah. It's like,
so. The way people have insulated themselves from this stuff is twofold, right? Distance and price. So Georgetown, or like Williamsburg, right? I mean, Brooklyn used to be vibrancy central, right?
Yeah.
And,
there's interesting stuff about Williamsburg but go ahead. Keep making your point.
So, hipster swipples do not share tastes with Puerto Ricans or blacks. Like, they like completely different things, and so they impose their costs. Blacks wreck Brooklyn so hard that there's nothing left to steal, right? So they'll come in, hipsters will come in for a song and rent the place for $200 a month and make their artisanal keyboards out of rare teak and mahogany, and enrich the play, start a business or something. But
there's another element to that process there. Another element, and it can't be ignored. And there are, and this is actually a thing that came up in New York this week. It's not a thing that came up this week. It's a thing that I saw a report on this week, which was a little bit unusual because ordinarily this kind of report does not get made, and it was in the Daily News, and it was about Section 8 abuse in Brooklyn by Hasidic Jews. And but this is one element of it, in that a lot of the slum property in Brooklyn, in which blacks and Puerto Ricans mainly, all kinds of other fucking who knows what, but mainly blacks and Puerto Ricans are the tenants, owned by Hasidic Jews. And Hasidic Jews, as has been known if you lived in New York, but also has been written about in New York Magazine, the New York Times, elsewhere, have been on essentially a deliberate gentrification path, where they're like, we have these properties all over Brooklyn. We practically own Brooklyn. The Hasidic community practically owns Brooklyn at a low level, all the rental properties. And we're not making much. We can make more money. How can we make more money? We kick out the blacks and Puerto Ricans. We bring in young whites. And they're fucking totally frank about it. They don't have any feelings of a need to pander to political correctness, to pander to sensibilities, and they're like, no, well, yeah, we're going to kick out blacks and bring in whites. Like, they'll tell you this, they'll say it, and they've been caught on tape. They've been, New York Magazine did a whole article where the reporter, who was himself a Jew, a secular Jew, though liberal, was horrified, of course, or not. Here's the thing. Who knows how horrified he was? Who knows what was going on there? But in a way, it's like remarkable that the dude but he rode around in the car with this Hasidic Jew, as the Hasidic Jew went to black and Latinos and said, we'll give you $5,000 cash to leave this apartment, by the end of the month. And they all take it, right? And they take it because they're poor as shit, and $5,000 cash, it's like, I've never seen that much money before. So they're like, yeah, and they sign legal documents, and those legal documents are enforceable. So if they don't leave, the state makes them leave. And then, hey, here we go. Now, here's a property. We'll rent it initially to white hipsters at, as you said, a song. And these people then will voluntarily fix it up on their own. And I saw this firsthand. I lived in a gentrifying neighborhood in Brooklyn full of hipsters, which was deliberately essentially settled with hipsters by the Orthodox Jewish landlords, and the hipsters voluntarily started fixing shit up because they didn't like how shitty it was. So they started planting gardens. They started doing trash pickups in the park that was a couple blocks away that had been, just a shit pile left by the blacks and Puerto Ricans that lived there before. Like, it's a whole fucking thing. And people think, oh, this is good, because what this means is taking back a city from POC for whites. Right now we have white, but I'm saying, I don't know that it's good. Now, I don't know that this is the intention of the Orthodox Jews that are doing this, or if it's just a side effect, or if it's all synergy, or what the fuck it is. But these people that move into these gentrifying neighborhoods, they don't grow up. They don't become adults. So it's like, hey, I loved college. I loved living in a college dorm. I loved hanging out and doing drugs and getting drunk and having sex and listening to music and partying. And now I can do that for 10 more years living in a gentrifying neighborhood that's essentially a dorm.
Right. A cheap dorm.
Sorry if that took things off track, but...
Well,
anyway.
it does.
It reminds me, did you see that, I forgot what media outlet did it, might have been Now This, or BuzzFeed or something, whatever, something. But it was something about how Trump claims to not be racist. However, when you take a closer look at his his past as being involved in real estate, he tended to seek out, according to this data, statistically, he always was seeking out white people to rent property to. It was like,
sounds like good business.
Yeah, it's like, it's almost like white people are better people to rent your fucking property out to.
Those kind of charges were leveled at his dad too. Like, even, I don't know if you saw this when Woody Guthrie, that fucking folk singer who, This Machine Kills, he put like This Machine Kills Fascists on his guitar and sang This Land Is Your Land, all that shit from the scene.
That fucking loser, yeah.
Shit. Yeah, okay. So he was from, of course, like all these people. Now, he was a WASP, and Pete Seeger was a WASP. Okay, so they weren't Jewish, but they were communists, and like openly communist. Of course, they both came from, I think, wealthy WASP backgrounds. Lived in New York City,
like all communists, yeah.
Yeah, like WASP or Jewish, right? Like, this is what communists are: people that come from wealthy, WASP or Jewish homes. Let's just be honest about it. So Guthrie then lives in one of Fred Trump's housing projects, and the word housing project did not have a negative connotation in the 1950s, because a housing project, like Fred Trump built housing projects to house returning veterans, and he made money. Like, let's just be honest, like, he made money from HUD, he made money from the housing authority. And they gave him money. They're like, look, we have all these people coming back from the war. They need affordable housing. And Fred Trump, to his credit, tried to make his buildings white only. And he could make his buildings white only. And he did. Frankly, he did. I mean, Fred Trump's buildings were white only. And they were specifically there for young white couples to start families. I mean, this is what he was doing. And he could openly do that in the 1950s. Of course, Woody Guthrie took out an apartment at one of these buildings and then immediately started writing songs about how evil Fred Trump was. And there's actually songs that Woody Guthrie wrote where he specifically mentions Fred Trump. And Donald Trump, then that he was the heir to the money that was made from that. But I don't consider what Fred Trump did to have been bad in any way, shape, or form. I mean,
no, there should be freedom of association. I mean, come on.
And he was he was doing something for the country. I mean, it's not just freedom. Like, he was building housing for returning veterans and their wives to start families. Like, that's, and like, this is what he was trying to do. Like, like, he was saying this is what he wanted to do. Like, it's not just like it's neutral or fine because it's okay because people want it freely. It's like he was doing something good. He was doing something positive.